I haven't left the house. I have obviously been a bit of a news hound. The greater Rockford area, the northwest section of Illinois, have been close. I've been reporting that. They went full-blown overload and ran out of ICU meds. They've also got federal assistance teams up there helping install the hospitals. And I'm pretty sure on one source I read 1,200, another source I read like 2,000. Out of state and federal medical professionals are coming into Illinois to assist. The numbers are huge, but I told them I saw them. The numbers I don't think are the key thing. I think the key thing is that the system is being overwhelmed. It appeared clear, clear as mud sometimes, trying to follow their guidance. Jay and I were talking about that earlier. But it appeared that the strain on the system from Omicron is not just complex mutations, but the fact that it's so widespread that it's impacting the ability of staff to get to work. There's just too many staff people that are sick. So we're not only reaching an exhaustion and overload of the system, but we suddenly shrunk the system capacity by staff and ability to report. And they're seeing that in other essential services also. I'll let it drop here and pass it back to Jay, and we can kind of round table this here, whatever direction that it chooses to go. This is at 911. The danger of COVID is drop exhaustion, of this being a third wave, and in some places having fourth and fifth waves in other countries. It's only human nature that one would have things, and perhaps later when it's Chuck's turn, we can talk about human nature and from the standpoint of a psychiatrist, and what actually is going through people's minds over time. I know lack of trust in public figures was also mentioned in the past as a factor. So rather than continue a monologue here, Steve, K3FCT, good morning. Let's turn the mic over to you.
AA4FL and the group versus K3FCT. Well, hey, in my daily existence, mostly at home and seeing little of the outside world. When I do venture out, I am struck by the behavior of the upper middle class people with whom I'm interacting, uh, not so much shopping, but in amateur radio club type meetings, who don't mask, who seem to have no concerns about crowding into a small room. And it's a bit of a struggle for me because I wear my N95 mask. I stand by the window and open it. And I leave early when I see the crowd growing. And people remark upon my early departure, but not any of the rest of it. So I really don't know what to make of theoretically intelligent colleagues. It's a bit distressing. Anyhow, I don't see much point in going on longer on that. I'm busy trying to decide what hand gear to pack in this now phone lined, hard sided case to take to Hawaii. United had us push our departure back from Monday to Tuesday because of the coming northeast U.S. Storm. And that's about all the news from here. Back to J3. K3FZT.
Very fine, Steve. Well, thank you for being here with us today. I'm glad to hear the trip to Hawaii is still on. I know you're going to be there for a while, and you mentioned you were going to have access to the net. But glad you're bringing some amateur radio equipment along, and perhaps other than the time difference there with the net starting so early in the morning being impractical, at least maybe we'll catch up with you later in the day. WW9F, Jeff, you're here. I've checked you in off of the message. Thank you for being here. For those of you that have NetLogger, Hilton has posted the link to the YouTube recording for the morning. So if you do need or want to watch it live, feel free to. And we just start distributing that. I did remiss this last week. I had a week where I was relocating locations and didn't get a post of last week's, but fortunately, I believe, I think it was Chip that might have done a distribution. One Chip or Hilton did early in the week on the Google list group. Thank you very much for doing that. WJ8B, Andy, good morning. Go ahead and looking forward to hearing from you. Proceed.
Well, good morning, everybody on the net. Still halfway sunny here in Columbus, Ohio. It's snow tomorrow, but we don't have much. Looks like we're not probably going to get that much. But present look at the weather thing. I just get 2 to 4 inches if that much. Positivity rate in Ohio, last I saw yesterday, 33% of those tested are positive. And assuming that's probably mostly Omicron. The hospitals are all overloaded. There's at least one asking for military assistance. My barometer for this is my daughter, who works in the ICU in a small town about 80 miles from here in Athens, Ohio, in 12-bed ICU, and she's been working 60 plus hours a week and is really tired and at times emotionally wrought out because she gets to see people die from this, particularly the very, very young. It's hard to watch, and it's definitely a problem. One thing, I haven't really seen a lot of new information that brings to the net, but one of the things I use for keeping my CME out is what's called EM wrap, semi-colon report. Yeah, it's a paid thing, but during the height of the beginning of the pandemic, they put on a series of live free shows that anybody can watch. You can just click on their link and go to it. They don't charge you for anything. They've done it for a while. These are all pretty much practicing ICU and ER docs, and are having one this Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's actually 5 p.m. for where they're at. Their broadcast is based in the Los Angeles area, but they have people all over the country that participate in this. So, and a lot of basic science goes on during that as well. And I've heard a lot of things that have occurred in treatment via that method in the past. So, not too much else going on. We're doing fine here. My two grandsons have got the both are feeling well, and they're both back in school. So, that's all I have today. For the bill from WKAP.
Well, thank you for being here with us today, Andy, and for giving us the report from the Columbus area, and particularly from your children, your family, that are actively engaged in medical care. And thank you for their service to their community. And it takes a team locally, regionally, nationally, and we'll have to work together to get everyone through this. And we never in our lifetimes experience a medical crisis like this. I mean, you can understand that the potential is always there for localized disasters, but something like this that's national all at one time, and what it's doing to the family members of those that are having to serve the population, treat the population, what they're actually donating, or not necessarily donating, what their dedication to their profession and what the sacrifice that they should take in personal time is something that needs to be acknowledged, and they need to be thanked. So war and the frontline warriors. Can we let it drop one? Well, Chip and 5 RTF. Good early morning to in New Orleans. I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Go ahead.
Hey, A4FL in the group and 5RTF. Yeah, it's a rainy day in New Orleans. It's 66 now and it's supposed to be down to 36 by tonight. So it's going to be a big drop, something we don't usually see. So it's just a miserable weekend. As far as COVID, what I see is more and more people that I know are saying that they have it. They've been tested. They stay out for 5 days, come back to work. Nobody's had a really bad problem from it. Just aches and pains and sniffles and fever and lost a few days of productivity. So most people seeing that, I think, are just developing a narrative that they can live with, and they're just planning on going on with their lives. I think they are tired of authority, particularly when it sends conflicting messages, and everybody just wants to move through and be over with. And 5RTF.
Thank you for that perspective. Appreciate you being here and offering that input. Well, Jeff, WW9F, good morning to you. How are you doing today? Let's turn the mic over to you. Okay, nothing heard Jeff, and I'm just monitoring. I'm not sure if he's able to transmit today. Let's try it one more time, Jeff, just in case. W9, WW9F, AA4FL, the Marco Medical Image Radio, Council Digital Voice Tech. Go ahead, Jeff. Okay, nothing heard small that today, by the way. We do have two additional stations that are listening and not participating directly. So I'm not sure how many others are listening and not letting us know that they're there. And I would hope that there's an interest in what we have to say. This being a quiet day, suspect that we might be also getting a little bit of COVID exhaustion ourselves. We've talked about in the last month that we need a direction for the net and a way to have a weekly topic like Grand Rounds would be nice, but something that people can be communicated to, so they might have an interest to grow this group and perhaps outside the ranks of Marco's well things that would be the general amateur radio public would be interested in topics that can be house related or ham radio related. We'll talk about that with every passing week here. Are there any other items that we'd like to have follow-up discussion? Go ahead and call me and we'll make a list, or if there's any other late check-ins, go ahead and call me as well. Proceed, this is AA4FL.
N4TS.
N4TSC for check-in. Any other check-ins, go ahead and make your call to AA4FL. Okay, Jerry, let's go ahead and let you have a chance to take the mic and say hello to everyone. I don't know if you have access to NetLogger and can see who's here today, but myself, N9OML, K3FGT, WJ8B, N5RTF, WW9F, and Hilton is recording TY2BDQ. Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay. To the home for all of us. We had family that visited us, and we all gathered together in Winter Garden a few weeks ago. And half the family in returning, they got their flight back. A delay of 24 hours, and then finally made it home. And of that group, 2 of 4 came down with COVID. The group that came by car stayed together. Everybody been vaccinated. No, none had COVID.
Okay, N4TSC, WJAD and I have you coming in and out, Jerry, very intermittent. Copy a little bit about that. What I did copy is, and I hope I'm not doubling with you now, is that you got together with family in Winter Garden, Florida, and those that had traveled, some of them had the flu, had flight delays on the way home up to 24 hours. And you said half of the group that traveled by plane ended up getting COVID exposure and positivity, whereas those that were vaccinated and traveled by car did not. So I'm going to let you follow up on that conversation, but keep each transmission short just in case we're having technical problems. N4TSC AA4FL. Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, very good, Jay. You got the thrust of the first part of what I was saying. And I was going to continue by saying that as I think it was Steve or others that talked about, there are high risk takers and there are low risk takers, and it's not a question of whether you understand what's going on. It's a matter of whether you're willing to take the risk or not. Stand by one. So I think that the way that those of us in the profession and have knowledge and also happen to be hams have gotten together, and we've done it in open venues. We don't go into closed environments, but we'll have a luncheon or something like that, and most of us will wear masks until we actually eat and then put the masks back on. And that looks like that is the source of some of these people, like the kids in our family who have come down with it. They seem to have been exposed in the lunchroom in the schools that they went to in Michigan. Stand by one. So it looks to me like this is a question of economic versus medical importance. And there are those that argue that they want kids going back to school because it makes their life easier. And they think that there is a lower risk for the kids going back to school, whereas others feel that there's a higher risk that's involved with going back to school. And I think you have to balance the two and understand where you are in this equation. Stand by one. I think that the thing that we have to look at now is what is the risk and what is the age of the children that you're dealing with. I think right now we have to wait until we get a little bit more data and also have some trials of vaccinations for children under the age of 5. Obviously, the amount of vaccine that you actually give these kids has to be titrated against their age and weight and their ability to be able to handle it. And I think that that's what the issue is, and that probably will be resolved in the next 5 to 6 months or so. I think probably by next summer we'll have some more information based on that. Stand by one. And in my own family's case, the advice that I have given my daughter for her daughter, my grandchild, is that they do not allow my 18-month-old to go to a daycare, as they both have an issue with trying to deal with taking care of their child and work. And for the moment, they can work remotely, but they will have to go back to physically being there. And they want to have a solution whereby their children go to daycare. And I said,
Arias, hopefully you've finished your transmission. Kind of lost you after you talked about the children and wanting the children to go back to daycare. So if you want to pick that conversation back up and keep the transmissions like 30 seconds apiece, that might be helpful just to make sure we're getting the gist of it. Go ahead, Jerry, and for TNC AA4. And for TSC, AA4FL, Jerry, have you finished your prior transmission? Because we had you drop out. Are you copying us now? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm copying you now, and one of the things I noticed earlier on was there was a long dropout in one of your transmissions, so obviously we've got some issues, maybe with flood at you.
Okay, Jerry. It's quite possible there's problems on my end regardless. I only have 12 megabits per second. Even though I've just rebooted everything recently to make sure everything's clean. Going by what some other stations are reporting to in terms of when your transmissions are in and not. What we heard was the family wanted the kids to go back to daycare. And then we dropped after that. So if you want to pick that up 30 seconds at a time, go ahead. Okay, I'm not copying Jerry at all now. If anyone is copying him, please let me know on NetLogger. But are there any other follow-up comments today? Anybody would like to make a list of those conversations? Go ahead and make your call.
WJB.
WJB's AA4FL. Go ahead and proceed, Andy.
Yeah, I was just going to continue on what Gary was saying. My, you know, four of my grandchildren are in daycare or in grade school. And the one grade school is not a problem now because he had COVID. Yeah. One day after he had a second vaccination, so he's going to be pretty well protected. His younger brother is probably the source of it. They go to daycare, and he's fine now as well. But he won't be eligible for that for a year. My other two grandchildren live in the Los Angeles area. That's kind of what my comments will focus on. One is 4.5, so he's not quite eligible, but will be soon. And the other one is only 1. And both my daughter-in-law and my son do highly technical work. It's online, and they've been doing it from home. They have real difficulty doing it when both kids are there. And even with one, it's a problem. Recently, there was a one-year-old had a classmate come down with COVID, so they brought her home. They thought about trying to do it long term, but the issue is, not putting the younger one in daycare. But the issue is in that locality is that daycare is hard to come by. And if they leave or out of that and don't pay for a period of time, then somebody else gets it. It might be 2 years or more before they find another spot that is of equal quality. So it's a real tough question for young adults with children have to face. So back to you, Jay, A4FL from WJB.
Points well taken, Andy, and I feel for the family and all families. I noticed my daughter's got some of the same experience. She works out of her house, and we have to help out Fortunately, she just moved up to Gainesville. We're over there helping. Her kids are over here. She was here yesterday working from our house here out in the country in Hawthorne while we had the kids. So I think it definitely affects the economy, but more than that, the stress level in the family structure. How much stress can family relationships take without causing marital strife? It's been 2 years now. I hope people are resilient, because under best of circumstances, marriages are stressed. So if anybody would like to offer some follow-up comments to that particular further discussion, go ahead and give me a call. We'll make a list.
N5RTF.
N5RTF, AA4FL, go ahead, Chip.
Yeah, with regard to school and daycare and families, um, the nuclear family, the mother, father, and a group of kids living independently in a house, is a real aberration from all of human history. It's only really existed in the United States since World War II. Now, that's all of our lives and experience, so we think it's normal. But anywhere else in the world and any other time in history, you have multi-generational homes with people from great grandparents all the way down to babies, and everyone helping out and everyone taking care of each other, and that's actually the norm in 5RTF.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Chip. So for young people today, in today's age, it's a different world, of course, with high tech. And a lot of people need to live in urban areas for various reasons, or close to an urban area, where the nuclear family may not be possible due to the high cost of real estate. Is that part of the factor as to why we've changed, the society itself changed here, Chip? Is there a future for a return to those traditional aspects of what was life pre-World War II? What do you think about that? N5RTF, AA4FL.
AA4FL, this is N5RTF. I think that technology offers us an opportunity to spread back out again. We've proven during the pandemic that most people can work from home. So you don't have to live in a city. You don't even have to live close to where you work for most people. So there is the opportunity, for people to live where they want to, do the kind of work they want to, and maybe never even meet their coworkers in person for their entire career. Things like that need to be explored, because I think people would be a lot happier in that kind of environment. Kids now, if you see them out, if they even do associate in person, they're sitting across the table from each other, texting each other. So they might as well be in Canada and Australia. N5RTF.
Thank you, Chip. So it sounds like for the next generation, developing an information superhighway equivalent to what would have been in the post-World War II generation, the interstate highway system is paramount to the ability to make that transformation. I'd imagine from a national security standpoint that if you want to rely on the technology to run your society, but in terms of nuclear attacks and decentralization is always a possible way to avoid taking down your total economy. I guess in today's day and age, information warfare, IT would be easier and less expensive, and you'd want to probably take an enemy intact from destroying their and possibly damaging yourself through radiation exposure. Now, you mentioned some of the changes, and just comes to mind, what was it, the 1980s? We had Alvin Toffler and the Third Wave, a book by him that actually, from what I remember, one of the first books that I read that talked about some of the changes in society in regard to that discussion thread. Is that one that you read at the time too, Chip, in 5RTF, AA4?
I did read it, and it's interesting. A lot of it did come true. I think one of the best concepts that was thrown back and forth during the 70s, 80s was appropriate technology, an appropriate level of technology. So in certain circumstances, just a plain old sledgehammer, is better than a sophisticated tool for doing some jobs. You need to pick and choose what level of technology a certain task requires, and use the simplest thing that makes the least permanent mark on the world around you in 5RTF.
And for TSC.
And for TSC, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, Chip's as I was a youngster growing up, opinion. Of course, at that time there was only a one-family earner, and so there was always a member, a parent that was always at home to take care of things, and that's not the case now that we're spread out. Stand by one. As a group, kids are much, much more resilient than adults are. Adults become fixed and less resilient and able to tolerate certain kinds of changes. It seems to me that the time in formal education in school can be made up rather quickly by kids. It's the question of socialization that's being sacrificed on schedule, and that's what the issue is. And I think even if you have the kids in an environment in which they're sitting across from one another while they're learning and playing with their iPhones and communicating that way, that's part of the socialization that they'll miss out on. But they will make it up very, very quickly once we get things back in order. And even if it takes us another year and a half to get back there, it can be made up. At least that's what I believe. Back to you. AA4FL and 4TSC.
Thank you, Jerry, and I hope that's true. I would imagine that it's probably not uniformly uh, viewed because there's probably different segments of society and socioeconomic class and how much kids can bounce back because of the lack of exposure they're getting. There's some that may be left totally in the dark without any stimulation during that year or two, and that's a year or two is a long time in the developmental process of a child, particularly a young one, but the ones from wealthier families, ones that have resources or nuclear families where they're around a lot of people, a lot of siblings, probably will fare better. And there's another story to be told, something that was tough to see through experience. Work extra hard to overcome those shortcomings. Any other discussion before we call the net to a close? AA4FL taking input. Go ahead and make it call.
Elliot, A8A.
I have nothing to comment.
Thank you for checking in, Keith, N3IM. I wasn't sure if you had nothing to comment or either way, we're going to have you check in just a minute and we want to hear from you. But go ahead, WJB, Andy. Proceed.
I just couple quick comments about what Tiffany and Gary were talking about. I kind of using my own children, but I also would draw on my wife's family. My wife was the second of 13 children. Like 10 of them are alive, but anyhow, most of her brothers they're all alive. There's 8 of them, and so their careers would draw on this as well. Um, well-educated people outside of medicine and law very often are in technical or areas of business that they told me they're very interested in and do very well in college and even postgraduate work. But they find out when they get out, there's only 2, 3, 4 places in the entire country that need their help. And all the particular places that do the stuff that they're interested in are located in just a few locations. And my oldest son is a PhD um, chemical engineer, and he ended up he had to go out west where they do a lot of semiconductor research, etc., or stay in more academic stuff on the East Coast. He ended up being a patent examiner for the federal government, and they required him to be in the Washington, D.C. area, although that requirement is lifting for him. His wife job still requires her to drive into work once a week, so it's not going to be easy for them. She's a PhD in biology. My younger son chose the creative path in photography and cinematography, and he found out very quickly that he either lived in New York City or Los Angeles to get a job. He tried working here for a whole year and it simply was not going anywhere. And he's been very successful in Los Angeles. So his wife met his wife out there and everything worked out fine. But those factors, besides the milk, the familial factors that you guys have already mentioned, are very much in force. So let somebody else talk back to you, Jay, from WJAP.
JC3SOK, Kilo Charlie 3, Sierra Oscar, Kilo Jim with a comment.
Okay, good morning, Jim. KC3 SOK. Thanks for coming on board again today. I'm going to go ahead and take your comments, but before I do, I've got one station ahead. N3IM. Go ahead, Keith.
This is N3IM in the marker group. My only comment is we're getting ready for a snowstorm and it's 11 degrees here. And one more comment. The economy has had a lot to do with the destruction of the nuclear family, as it's called. Middle class income stagnated, whilst middle classes have soared to the point where even two income households are having difficulty with financial stability. That's my comment. This is N3IM.
Thank you, Keith. That's another perspective. Another particular perspective from my point of view, being somebody who's had family economics training, is that there seems to be a certain amount of corporate focus on profit and disdain to employees, and the technology, of course, lends itself to this as well, where people can be more productive with less employees. So it's not necessarily the fault of the employers and the corporations to want to make a profit. But when you look at the stock market and the record profits and you would think that this is also part of the factor of the problem. So I don't know if that's capitalism or greed or just the reality of a worldwide economy where you have to pay your employees less to be competitive with overseas marketplaces. I'm sure it's complicated economically so, but obviously that's also a factor in why two people have to work. When you've got people that are working but yet need public support to make ends meet, the corporations being subsidized by that public support. That's the question. Or should they just be paying it out in the first place themselves? Another discussion for another time. Thank you, Keith, for getting this read. Let it drop one before I turn it over. Okay, thank you, John. I see some additional comments on the instant messaging. It's complicated world out here, and just the logic of the stock market and profits are going up extremely during a time of national sort of defies logic. But in the long term, we'll have to see where that heads to. There's so many changes in this world. When I think of what the half-life of information and change that's impacted society was before World War II and with all the technologies now, what it actually takes to keep up with one's job and the types of jobs that are technologically dependent. I was glad I was a dentist and not in the IT field. So I don't think I could have kept up. KC3, SOK Jim, why don't you go ahead and take the mic?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come on. I'm new with a license in August and just joined Marco probably a week or so ago and learned about this net. And I'm an orthopedic surgeon in Maryland. I've just been listening to the conversation with great interest. I had another commitment this morning until only caught about the last half hour. But a lot of challenges. I see what my kids are up against and how hard they work. And now the oldest one has a new little lad that's almost 2. And so we're helping them out. And fortunately, able to be near them to be able to help out. Anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to come on and take it back to net. KC3 SOK.
Welcome to Marco, Jim. I hope you're not having the same weather Keith was mentioning up there in his area of Pennsylvania. I mean, I think of Penn State for a whiteout in terms of a football game, but I imagine you get a lot of snow and have whiteouts at the time of the other variety. And Jim, you're welcome. As far as the digital net and participation is concerned, as you might find, and we're up to 11 check-ins here today. That's only about 3 or 4% of our Marco population. We still have a lot of traditionalists, a lot of people that are in HF and really enjoy the Grand Rounds of the Air or seeing that on Sunday morning. Of course, not everyone has the availability to HF, and over time, I'm sure as our members get younger, and I mean 50 and under, I would think we're going to get more participation. So I'm reading some comments here that are coming in on instant messaging. Jim, I'm not sure if you have access to NetLogger, but that NetLogger, you can look it up online. And when you do check-ins through NetLogger, you can see who's checked in, and you can also there's an instant message feature. And what we're getting is great additional conversation in real time. Where individuals can stimulate new threads. If you see me introduce a new thread, often it's in response to something I'm reading here. Let it drop one. Hey, this is AA4FL, the Medical Image Radio Council Digital Voice Net. I mentioned right now as secretary, work with the treasurer in getting billing out and for the annual membership. But what I'm getting now is also I continue to get a lot of new applications for membership. We have a membership committee. When the new applications come in, they're web-based. Somehow people are finding out about us. I noticed when I said the 50 and under crowd, that's what's happening now. We're starting to get a lot newer members, some that are more technically inclined and younger generations that see amateur radio in a little bit different light. And that is another trend. Not that HF is going to go the way of the nuclear family, but, the changes in society, changes in technology, not necessarily happening overnight, but it is happening in Marco. And we appreciate everyone being here for the Digital Voice Net. Something that's a different component, an addition. It's a plus for Marco. It's not a substitution for anything else we're doing. Any other additional comments before I bring the night to a close? Go ahead and make a call to AA4FL. Go ahead. Well, again, it's wonderful to have a group of friends that can have a round table. I hope you have a cup of coffee with you as you do. Decaf for those of you that have a medical component to the coffee drinking. But it's just a wonderful congenial group. I'm so pleased with the way everyone can interact in an impartial way. As I mentioned last week, I know many of our members personally, and you range from those that are very liberal to those that are very conservative, but yet everyone seems to get along on this net. Do appreciate it. And anything else we can do, remember as members, we do have a Google group, and it's set up for most of you by digest form, which means you'll get your messages once a day by thread. And I've seen an uptick in activity with some of the new members using it. So that's another way to follow up on the conversation today, guys. And hopefully some gals in the near future. So I'm going to say 7-3, calling it to a close, and look forward to next Saturday. And have a wonderful week and a healthy week. And Godspeed. Hopefully Omicron will be another week behind us and closer to an endemic and not harmful to the population. 7-3, everyone. AA4FL calling. When that's close, we'll turn the frequency back, or the mechanism back to respond to the array for general amateur use. Thank you for their use of the transcoding and all their technical support. And 7-3, everyone. AA4FL will be standing by for anybody that might have personal conversation after that.
KC3SOK calling AA4FL.
Hey, Jim. Welcome to Marco. Any questions about Marco? And I look forward to hearing them from you. By the way, you check your audio. You might be overdriving a little bit of distortion here. So I'm not sure what you're using, if it's radio or a hotspot, but you might want to play with that just a little bit. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, thanks for the feedback. It was almost experimental that I'm here at all, since I actually have a martial arts class every Saturday from 9:30 to 10:30, and so I have an Anytone HT, and I got a hotspot with it. And this is the first time I've ever used a hotspot in the car. I've been mainly focusing on local nets on VHF, UHF, and then using repeaters around the area that are digital, but they're DMR marks, so they're not like Brandmeister, where I could just talk onto QuadNet. That QuadNet's not available on the DMR mark system around here, interstate. And so I actually have some Aeropex Bluetooth kind of earbud things that I'm talking out of. So everything is totally experimental. I'm talking in maybe a little quieter voice and see if that modulates more appropriately. Back to you.
I'm glad you're using the technology to its fullest. I do something similar when I'm traveling the interstate here. I put a hotspot in the car. My current cell phone set up as the internet source for it. I don't have a lot of repeaters, digital repeaters in our area. I got one at the University of Florida, and I haven't added Quannet to it. So I'm planning on doing that. You might be able to request that if you think it's important on some of the repeaters where they want to have that participation. And it's a whole different technological involvement that many of our traditional members. We have a lot of members in their 70s and 80s that have been hams since the 1940s, 50s, 60s. And some of them are a little less receptive to change their gym over.
Yeah, it's just very interesting. I'm in my later 60s, but I've always been sort of a techno geek and got into ham radio over the last year as a result of COVID. You get home from work and you just want to do something totally different. And so I started watching YouTube and playing with ham radio ideas, and then downloaded the technician exam prep and just sort of 15 minutes or 20 minutes there. And after a while, I said, maybe I could just take the test. I did in August and passed. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I'd be interested to know of any physicians and surgeons all around the area that have this. It's not too many people are even aware of the technology. It's absolutely fascinating to me. Plus, as we all know, the cell phones go down so easily in storms and national emergencies and whatever. It's nice to know you have something else. Are you a physician and surgeon as well? Back to you.
Well, thank you for asking. I was a country dentist, actually, a small town, 1,500 people. So I did a lot of general dentistry. I also taught at the university, and ironically, I ended up in oral surgery for quite a while, teaching surgery. So I'm certainly not fearful of doing dental surgery, but that's not my core. I'm retired now. I'm a little bit younger, not much, 63, and started having to take care of parents age 55, being the only child here in the United States, and my wife, just two of them. So I couldn't do everything. I sold the practice. And about 2018, stopped seeing patients. I'm still at the university part-time. I'm the trustee for the radio club there, so I'm just doing things. Working with engineers, satellites too. We have CubeSat that requires amateur radio. Thanks for asking, Jim. I'd forgotten exactly what you did, Jim.
I'm a orthopedic surgeon. I was in private practice for a long time in like 5, 6, 7 size group. And 2014, I joined a much bigger hospital employed group. And mine were there, and so now I'm just working full time with them, doing shoulder and knee surgery, and just enjoying my work. And thought about retiring, but then for what I do, I mean, I have a lot of hobbies, including this, but still like what I do. I'm involved in advocacy too. I do work at the state legislature on behalf of physicians. I'm involved in our state medical society. I've had prior involvement with the orthopedic society on sort of a legislative kind of level. So lots of fish in the fry, interesting things to do. fun to get to meet people and maybe make a difference now and then. Back to you.
Well, I'm sure glad you're enjoying your work. I miss the people practice of doing dentistry. I miss the technical. Dentistry is so much a cottage industry still, with general practitioners making up the bulk of those in practice, and the corporate world is starting to capture the younger general dentists, and it's getting harder and harder to sell dental offices. So in a way, I was lucky and had the right person come along who wanted mine, and I can take great pride in knowing that the practice still exists and is going strong. I've been there for 35 years, and one of the two dentists there, the young lady is very similar to me. She can almost be my daughter, both her bedside manner and her values. So I'm gratified by that. The owner's quite a nice gentleman as well. Very fortunate to still live in the same town. But the business aspects of running a business, particularly what's going on now, definitely I am relieved not to have to deal with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we each have different journeys, and it's just been a pleasure to share a few minutes and speak to you this morning. I look forward to more in the future. And I'll say 7-3 next. I just pulled into home. I brought breakfast for me and my wife, and we're going to sit down to that. But again, thanks for what you do, running the net and everything that you're involved in. And best to you. And you'll be nice and warm down there. We'll be a little cold over the next couple of days. I'll get warm again. And KC3, KC3 SOK monitoring on your final.
Thank you, Jevon. Thank you for turning it over to me for a final transmission. And I do appreciate the appreciation for being here for the net. They're quite a nice group of people in Marco. The ones on the net today, a few of them have served as president, and they're high quality individuals that are dedicated to their patients, and some of them are retired now and continue to be dedicated to Marco, their communities. So we do have a good core of individuals that you're adding to. Thank you for becoming part of our group. If you know anyone else that would be interested in Marco, please pass along an invitation from me and from the organization. And we look forward to your participation. If you ever have any questions I can assist with, don't hesitate in asking them. Just an email away, and certainly can give you my cell phone if you can. Enjoy your breakfast. Give our regards to your wife, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet her at one of our functions once we pass through the Omicron stage of life. We'll get back to socializing and interacting. 7-3, have a great weekend. KC3 SOK, AA4FL, back to you for final if you have one. Otherwise, 7-3. This is AA4FL operating from Hawthorne, Florida today in Alachua County in the Gainesville area region, University of Florida. If there's anyone else who'd like to say hello before I go QRT, I'll look forward to hearing from you. I'll be waiting on any calls before I call an end to my participation. Okay, this is AA4FL. We'll be going QRT 70.
WHJEB, I think the call is Andrew. Are you still around? And 4 TSC. Nothing heard in 4 TSC. Clear. And QRT.